What is going on, everybody? We are going to talk about Age of Fantasy, a near perfect mass battle fantasy tabletop game. But we're going to talk about some of the bad things, and they are working on the 2.5 update. So hopefully the designer will watch this video and take what I say to heart. Maybe they'll consider some of the ideas that I have for the game. So, for starters, let's jump into the worst offender of all time, a unit that should be removed from the game completely, something that should be removed from the game and never brought back. It's really bad game design. And that is the Scout Slingshot Catapult. This thing is a war machine with 48-inch range, 1 attack, AP 4, so minus 40 armor, Deadly 3, Indirect Sniper for only 115 points. Now, in Age of Fantasy, if you're familiar, Sniper means you can pick models out of a unit, which is a great mechanic, and I think more bad snipers should be in the game. But at a 48-inch range and Indirect, Sniper lets you pick out models basically anywhere on the board. Sniper lets you hit on a 2+, which for sure War Machine should not be doing. And at AP 4 Deadly 3, you basically have to roll a 2+, and if your opponent doesn't roll a 6 to save, their character is dead, because most foot characters in units are only 3 wounds. And this only comes in at 115 points, which is absolutely absurd. If this was like 250, then yeah, okay. Or maybe if it was no AP at all, Deadly 3, then at least, the characters get a chance at saving. And even then, I think it should still be around 150 plus points. I don't know. So it's just something to think about. This is actually a banned unit from our time playing Age of Fantasy. You could see how bad it is right on paper. It shouldn't be in the game. Should be removed 100% or fixed. No board-wide indirect artillery snipers killing out characters on 2+. So, another interesting mechanic that is probably a danger here. There's only 2 armies that have this spell as far as I'm concerned. But this one here, Mesmer Oils, target enemy unit within 12 must take a morale test. If failed, you may force it to charge another enemy unit. Now, this spell is actually much more powerful. They have 2 really great 6+ spells, and I do like that the 6+ spells are generally strong. This one, of course, has the morale test to cap how OP it would be if, it did not have that part. But this is much stronger than, say, 1 hit per model, right? This is situationally good. Tough 3, low model count units are not really affected by this. The range is only 6 inches. Whereas this one, if you fail, some units can move 12, 18, or even 24, and in some cases, very rare, but 30-inch charge. The amount of kind of, I guess, not counterplay, but the amount of screwing up your opponent just because you got this spell off is a little extreme. For one, the unit is going to charge a very far distance. You're going to let it run through dangerous terrain or block a whole bunch of units that haven't gone yet. You're going to attack with it, doing a ton of damage potentially, because you're assuming you're going to cast this on a good fighting unit. You're going to do a ton of damage to another enemy unit, I guess. And then, because in this game, once a unit has already fought, they need 6s to hit for the rest of the turn. You're also giving them the ability that they need 6s to hit. So it's 3 really strong effects that just are not... I think it's too much for a 6-up. There's a lot of other strong 6-up spells, but this one's pretty extreme. Now, of course, the morale test is a cap or a checkpoint that, you could be countered if you have a character with a 2-up quality or you're fearless or something. You're pretty unlikely to fail this, but to get a massive move, an attack that does potentially massive damage, especially depending on which unit you put it on, and then the ability to, basically give them minus 2 or 3 or 4 to hit for the rest of the turn, assuming that unit hasn't already activated. It's like 3 powerful effects. I don't know if the spell needs to have all 3. I think something like this is danger. So there you go. Another one I want to talk about, and I'm not actually, let's jump into the Havoc Warriors. Oh, let's go into a good thing real quick. One thing I'd like to see more of is the Great Elemental. He's the water elemental, I assume, and he actually has Blast 3. Now, they had wonderful changes to Blast where you can only blast the number of models in the unit. So if you're targeting a single model, every hit is 1 hit. But if you're targeting a unit of 3 or more, every hit is 3 hits. As far as I know, this is the only unit in the game that actually has Blast and Melee. Poison is similar, but you need a 6 to trigger, and it's 3 automatic hits, and it works on single models. I do 100% think you should include Blast 3 into other models in the game. I think that would be a wonderful addition to the variety of attacks units could be putting out. So if there's another unit that's doing Blast in Melee, I'd be happy to see it. It makes this guy, I mean, he hits very well on a 3, 6 attacks, a potential 18 AP1 hits against a big unit, which seems very kind of symbolic for a big water wave crashing, typhoon, Sharknado, whatever, coming through and smashing into a unit. So I'd love to see more Blast in units. One thing that I think may be another problem, I don't know if rending is pointed correctly. Rending seems very strong. I'm thinking it should maybe be AP2 or go up in points. And just in general, probably things with a 2-up save should go up in points. Things with rending and or poison should maybe go up in points. And things that have rending plus poison stacked on them should probably go up again in points, or there should be a different way. Maybe you have to choose one or the other when those trigger. I know it makes it a little more complicated, but you could get into some real problems. For example, unfortunately, this is sort of their unique army creation, but this one seems to have some of the major problems, or potential problems, I guess, besides that Catapult, which is a major problem. So all the armies are kind of themed around a special rule. This one is actually themed around rending, which is really one of the very strong mechanics. Now, it looks like they're balanced out by, say, short range here, but maybe not so much here, right? 5 crossbowmen with rending for 85 points, and they got good shot, which makes them hit on a 4, so it's, I don't know. It could be a little too strong. I think rending should be considered maybe more powerful than it is, because it's not just good at killing heavy armor things, it's good at killing everything, right? So it basically removes the armor save from all models in the game at an AP4, and you don't get regeneration either on top of it. So let's get a little questionable about rending. Now, I think this unit actually back here on the Duchies of Vinci, and where are they? I just had them. The City Guard can take eye, which for only 10 points, they can take poison. So that brings them up to only 95 points to have a 30-inch, 1-attack rending poison shot that hits on a 4+, or quality 4+. I don't think there's a better archer in the game. That's devastatingly strong. There should definitely be no stacking of rending and poison in shooting. Maybe not definitely, but it should be pointed higher, I believe. Like, to give him poison should probably be more like 30 points. Because +1 attack is 30 points. So, yeah, let's just get a little checks and balances here on poison, especially any unit that can stack poison and rend. Another quick, I think I already mentioned it, but 2-up armor saves should definitely be maybe pointed higher. It's very strong. Now, rending is sort of a counter to that, which is an interesting, conversation. And I'm not saying any of it needs to go up a ton, but it seems like it may be a little undercosted. Here's a fun fact. This one's probably something they could fix right away. The Eternal Lord, which is the Stormcast Eternals, basically a giant armored knight, god knight. He can get access to the Star Dragon. The Star Dragon and the Great Drake do not give them +1 defense. They should get +1 defense on a dragon or a drake because basically every other big monster in the game gives you bonuses to your defense. And for some reason, their Lord on a dragon's a 3-up save, whereas everybody else's is a 2-up save. And you could put a wizard on a griffin, and he could get a +1 defense and become a 2-up save. But for some reason, the fighting character Lord on a dragon is not a 2-up, which is not great. So, should probably fix that. Star Dragon, 2-up save. Another one let's talk about here. If you look at this unit here, a Castigator Squad, they have 3 models, hit on a 3, 4-up save, 18-inch, 1 attack, AP2, tough 3, 150 points. Units like this are really, as far as I can tell, terrible in the game, just absolutely terrible. If you look at how many points this unit is compared to, say, it was only 95 points to have a 30-inch poison rend crossbow unit with 5 guys. This unit, yeah, they have 3 wounds each, but that's only 3 shots. Now, that other unit was putting out 5 shots at, 20 or 12 inches longer range than this. These guys are killing nothing. For 150 points with 3 shots hitting on a 3, 1 attack each, AP2. Yeah, they're putting a wound or 2 on some stuff, but they can't kill anything. They should have at least 2 hand weapon attacks, because of if they're a big tough 3, knight with a crossbow, I think they could defend themselves a little bit better than a goblin. And if you're going to pay all the points for this armor save and this toughness, they should they should probably be shooting 3 times each. Now, if this unit was 9 AP2 attacks, now maybe adjust the points a little, but 9 AP2 attacks starts to get really scary because there's a lot of 6 wound tough kind of monsters in the game. So this unit is a mess. Units like this don't work. 3 shots. Even the Judicators here are bad. 2 shots AP1 at 12-inch and only 1 hand-to-hand. Most charge ranges are 12-inch, coming in at 150. They're paying so many points for tough 3 and the high armor, but they don't have any damage output, which is, in general, I feel like your ranged units, you kind of want a little bit more of the glass cannon feel. So if you have to pay all these points to make them tanky, they should still be putting in some offense. So there's a fun one. Here's another one I noticed that is a potential problem. It is in the Mummified Undead. There's a couple here I want to get into. One being the Skeleton Giant. This guy he's got all the good things going for him. He's not paying a lot for a 2-up save. He's got 6 AP2 attacks. Now, if you're familiar with the game, there's a lot of monsters that are rolling around with 6 AP2 attacks. Basically, when you buy a dragon for your general, he gets 6 AP2 attacks. It's great, right? 6 AP2 attacks is a common thing in this game. But for some reason, this guy gets to buy a second sword for 20 points. So he gets 12 AP2 attacks, and he's only 165 with 12 AP2 attacks. Now, there's a lot of monsters and things in the game that are coming in over 200 points, 300 plus points that are still only doing 6 AP2 attacks. An example would be the Soul Grinder, Crab Demon. He's like 300 points plus, and he has 6 AP2 attacks in combat. I'm okay with some giant being the best giant. That's fine, right? Whoever has the best giant can have the best giant. That's cool. But if you're going to double his damage output, it should probably be 40 points at least. Or give a lot more monsters and things this sort of option because to basically just double his attacks, you're only paying 20 points. Why would you ever pay 145 when you could double his attacks for 165? That just, it's crazy. It's not, I don't feel like it's overpowered. It's not overwhelming. It just feels very efficient. And it more so feels like a lot of other units should have this sort of weapon option because, yeah, people want to do more attacks. And there's so many big things in the game. The large constructs and the dwarves, the crab demon and the demons, and other monsters and dragons and whatnot that only have 6 AP2 attacks. That's fine. It's kind of the standard. So to straight up double it. Or if this just made it, Chew Giant Swords was just, say, 8 AP2 attacks for 10 more points, right? You get plus 2 attacks instead of doubling it. That's also an option. This guy also rolls around with a full-on ballista at 25 points. I think shooting these attack 48, A1, AP2, Deadly 3, they're very, very good for the game. They're very strong in the game. There's a lot of 2-up save, 6 wound models. So in one shot, you can get a pin check or a crumble check or whatever. I think it's great for the game that these exist, but I don't know if it's only 25 points because this guy's rolling around with 12 AP2 attacks in melee. And before he gets there, he's shooting a full-on ballista. It's another one of those options. The ogres actually have this sort of option on their units too. I feel like maybe more armies, like back to the Storm Eternal guys, they have no Deadly 3 weapons in their entire army. So let me just jump back there real quick. This army, the heavy-duty god knights of lightning, Eternal Wardens, there is no Deadly 3 weapons in their army, which is pretty ridiculous. They have to ally in, and they need Deadly 3 weapons. Here's an idea. Maybe make this Castigator Squad. Attack 1. It could be 18-inch, A1, AP2, Deadly 3. Now we're talking, these are monster hunters. These are chariot hunters, dragon killers, right? Give them Deadly 3. Give something in this army Deadly 3. Back to sort of, if you remember too how bad the Eternal Wardens are at shooting with some of those units, they're just awful. Oh, another one on the Eternal Wardens, give their ballista another option to be a Deadly 3 ballista. I'll open it real quick just so I can show you if you're not familiar. I've spent a lot of time reading these lists. This ballista is a good ballista, right? At 115, 30-inch, 4 attacks, AP1, hits on 3s, right? It's a great ballista, but it should have an upgrade here that lets you switch it over to the one-shot AP2 Deadly 3. Once again, going back to the fact that they have no Deadly 3 in the army. There you go. Here's a good example of a sniper unit. The use of sniper rule in the game. Like I said, I want more armies to have access to sniper, especially like low or no AP sniper. Just giving that to units to be able to pick on banner bearers or wizards or whatever, I think is a wonderful idea. But here's a great sniper unit. 1 attack, AP2 sniper. This unit only has 3 guys, so they're very unlikely to kill a whole character out in one shooting phase. But they're going to put some damage on them, and they are a threat to characters, which is great for the game. Also, this should be 30 inches or 36 inches. These guys, the models that they're based off of, have a gigantic crossbow, and they're outshot 6 inches by normal crossbows. These guys are on like cavalry oval bases with the biggest crossbow you've ever seen. They should be rocking a 36 or 48 inch range on this. And the 48 would be fine on them because it's not indirect, right? So give them double the range or 36 inch range, giant crossbow. Otherwise, a good unit. Also give Deadly 3 to that army. The other one I want to check out, talk about, I guess, if it opens. There we go. Ogres. The shooters are way too good. Here's a good example of, and once again, I'm going to rephrase this. And then a lot of this is based on I've played against ogres a lot. I've played against the mummified undead. One of our players is playing the Eternal Wardens. Some of these armies we're building. Some of them we're looking at. So these guys are either a good example of what maybe the Stormcast Eternal shooting should be, or B, too good for their points. Now, they didn't have to spend a lot of points on an armor save, which you don't want to do on a shooting unit because you want to shoot. You want to go for that glass cannon kind of thing. They still get tough 3, though. So if you remember, units very similar to this in Stormcast Eternals, they were 3-4 with 3 shots. They had 3 shots. These guys have 9 shots at AP1. Stormcast Eternals had 3 at AP1. They have 9 at AP1. They're 5 points cheaper than the Stormcast Eternals units. Also, these guys have access to F, which makes them have a 5-point Sergeant. So for 5 points, which brings them in exact point cost of the Stormcast Eternals, 3 of these attacks hit on 3s, and 6 of these attacks hit on 4s. This is absurd. Maybe change this to 12-inch range. And, also they have 3 times the attacks of the Stormcast Eternals in hand-to-hand combat. So they are triple the damage output in every way for less points, even more than triple when you put in a Sergeant. And the only difference is they're a 4-5 instead of a 3-4. This is exactly what you want from a shooting unit. They're super efficient for what they do. You could take 3-man units and throw a Sergeant in. You don't need the standard or musician because you're not trying to win combat. You're trying to shoot things to death. I think they should be played as they're ogres walking around with cannons. Maybe think of them more as a blunderbuss, right? Like a shotgun sort of thing, a 12-inch 3-attack AP1. That way they have to maybe use their attacks or use their toughness to defend themselves, but they still put out a lot of damage output or raise their points. They really fall into a strong shooting unit. And also they hit on 4s. Like elves hit on 4s. So no reason that ogres walking around with cannons, to me, in my mind, should be shooting as good as elves. So that's just kind of an interesting thing there. They're too good. That should be 1 attack, by the way. This could probably be 1. Or shorter range or something. They have the same range as elves, the same quality as elves, the same number of attacks as elves. Actually, more attacks because a 5-man elf unit, or let's say a 10-man elf unit, is going to be more points, but only get 10 attacks. They're going to get 9. There's some problems here. Their wizard seems a little cheap. He's a tough 3 wizard at only 60 points, and he can rock around. He gets a wizard too, but he can also take a great weapon so he can fight. Wizards are wonderful in this game. They're so well done. They're so fun. That's why I think there should be more low-quality sniper shooting in the game. Low AP, maybe low number of attacks, low AP sniper units that get a pick on these wizards because they're very, very valuable to these armies. They're very strong. He seems like, I don't know. He's still you know what? I changed my mind because he's only tough 3 and other people's wizards are tough 3. And his unique thing is he gets a great weapon. So scratch that. He's fine. Let's go. Another interesting thing that, where is the Hunt Master, AD, so it's going to be under D. Now, these guys also, for 25 points, get a walk around with ballistas. The attack 1, AP 2, deadly 3. Like I said, I like this profile. It's great for shooting and picking on 6 wound models or 9 wound big models. It's good for picking on 2-up save stuff. But when you're putting these guys in units of shooters, you got a super efficient shooting unit. Or this guy can take, he's also got 3 AP2 attacks, so he's a little bit of a fighter. He can go around with the Yetis, who have Strider. I think he's okay, but when you're talking about, 65? So he's 90 points with Ballista, and his stats are better than a Ballista, right? He fights. Ballistas usually come in at, 55 to 60 points. So I don't know. Maybe the harpoon launcher should maybe be actually what's it called? Not artillery. Whatever the one is here, you get -1 to shoot if you move. That might be indirect, so scratch that. Anyway, they should be careful of giving people access to this to walk around with. Or maybe it should go up in points a little bit. Seems very strong. And that might be about it. Let me check. I'll give you an example of a terrible unit. Here, and it's terrible 4 times, which is interesting. This Crab Demon of War. He's a 4-up, just like that Skeleton Giant, with a 2-up save, just like that Skeleton Giant. He has 3 AP2 attacks at shooting. The Skeleton Giant could buy a crossbow ballista. This guy has Furious, so he's get +1 attack in melee. Whoop-de-doo. 4 AP4 attacks. He can't defeat anything in combat. 4 AP4 attacks is so bad, hitting on a 4. That means on average, if he charges, he's hitting twice. Those Skeleton Giants being able to double their attacks at 12 AP2 or 4 or whatever they were rocking around. I think they were 12 AP2. They can actually win combats and kill stuff in combat. This guy can't charge anybody with 4 I mean, we're talking Furious too, 4 AP4 attacks. So he's really mediocre at shooting, and he's really mediocre, really bad. Let's not even say mediocre. He's terrible at fighting at 270. Now, you can give him, for 5-point upgrades, 6 AP2 attacks. But that replaces this claw. That should be an additional 6 AP2. So for 5 more points, he can have half the attacks of the Skeleton Giant for 100 points more because he's tough 12. The other guy was tough 6. But you can almost take 2 of them for the price of these with 2 ballistas. So these 3 AP2 attacks would be, 2 ballista shots and 24 AP2 attacks between 2 giants. Just, these things are a mess. They're so high points. One of the reasons is because of this probably tough 12 2-up save. It's costing them a lot of points. So if you're going to be able to, if you want to spend this many points on a big unit, like a big monster, give him some damage output. I think the shooting's fine, right? He just shoots a little bit as he walks in, similar to the other giant, and then let him fight. Give him 10 AP4 attacks or 8 or 12, or give him 12 AP2 attacks like the other one. And let's just repeat this over and over again. This guy's -1 to shoot at. He's 285. He's even more expensive. What was that one? 270. Yeah, this one's 285. 3 AP3 attacks. And he doesn't get +1 when he charges. How pathetic is that? He's a mediocre shot and a terrible hand-to-hand combat model with, for 5 extra points somehow, he gets 6 AP1 attacks. So coming in at 290, he has half the attacks of the giant for almost double the points probably at this point, and 1 less AP. I like the shooting options. They feel right. Like, yeah, you shoot a little bit while you walk in, but these guys being unable to fight is insanity. And we'll go again. 360. Wow. Good God. You think this thing's going to be great, right? Oh, no, it's terrible. Now, poison is good. It's very good. But 3 AP2 attacks, you hit on a 4. If none of those are a 6, you do nothing. If one is a 6, you do very mediocre. If all 3 of them are a 6, okay, now you're talking, you did some damage. But at 360 points, this is ridiculous. He's so bad. Just insanely terrible. Now, his shooting's interesting. Having shooting with poison is a strong choice, of course. And he can actually get 3 AP2 poison shots. So you can make this one a pretty, scary shooting unit, but not for 370. And then 6 poison attacks. Whoa, just awful. Really, really bad rules writing here on the Crab Demons. And if you look here, the normal Plague Warrior has 1 attack at poison. Like, that's a standard thing. So getting 6 poison attacks is not great at all. It's terrible. And the last one, another absolutely terrible one, 275. He can get 12 no AP attacks. So whoop-de-doo. He can get 6 AP2 attacks, which is half of what those skeleton giants are rolling around with, which is just not enough. They're big monsters. They're paying a lot of points. They should be able to fight. It's not going to do anything. You're going to hit 3 times. You hit on a 4. You're going to hit 3 times with the AP2. Your Soul Grinder or Crab Demon looks like he could go toe-to-toe with some of the biggest monsters in the game, and he's going to do maybe 1 wound to them. That's how pathetic these are. And once again, I think their shooting's okay. I like, having a little bit of shooting in your army with your big melee guys is cool, right? Heck, double the attacks at least, and probably not change their points at all, or even bring their points down a little bit. Interesting how poorly written those are. So, yeah, not a fan at all of the Crab Demon. I played with him just once and immediately realized he was absolutely awful. There's just no reason to spend points on these guys. I don't see it. It's a mistake. And then let's jump in real quick to the very final. I know we've been going on a little long. Oh, nope, we got more. Another absolute terrible unit that makes no sense. War Dancers. 10 War Dancers. Hit on a 3. 6 up save. Spear 1 attack. No AP, no poison, no rend. They got phalanx. Okay, so they're a spearman unit, like all spears. Regeneration, stealth, and strider. 270 points. This unit will never see the battlefield. What an awful unit. This unit should have 3 attacks each with poison and probably still be less than 270. Oh my god, how poorly written are these guys? The War Dancers just need a full rewrite. I think they paid, they paid for the 3 quality, they paid for phalanx, and they got regeneration, stealth, and strider. They're paying for so many points of special rules, and this unit is an absolute garbage unit. It does nothing. Really, really terrible. Fix that one. Let's go. I'll go with the one I played against the most. But there are other examples. Oh, and this brings me into sort of the final stretch here. The big god models. Now, I actually love that the Keeper of Secrets, Lust Greater Demon, and the Change Greater Demon, and probably the Plague and War Greater Demons, they feel beautifully strong for their points. They're so great. It's so much fun having big models that actually do stuff, unlike the Crab Demon and a lot of the 6 wound models. The God Titan level models are awesome. I like seeing them on the battlefield. I think they're fun to play with. Now, this guy can take E. He's never, ever going to take 3 AP2 Deadly 6 attacks. I just don't see why you would roll around with 3 AP2 attacks. When for 25 points, you could have 12 AP4 attacks and 8 AP4 attacks. So at 825, he has 20 AP4 attacks, which means he's still killing things when he needs a 6 to hit after he's already fought. He's a wizard that has a spell that lets him charge. So potentially, the +1 I don't think matters once you've already fought, but all the wizards in this army are going to have this spell. So potentially this guy's fighting multiple times a turn once he's kind of in the mix. He flies, so he ignores terrain effects like phalanx from spears, spells that cast dangerous terrain on him, which is crazy. There should be a check on flying. Like spell effects that cause dangerous terrain checks should not be ignored by flying. But as far as I can tell in the rules, if you fly, you ignore dangerous terrain. Now, for simplicity's sake, I think it's great that the spells just say, hey, take a dangerous terrain. So we all know what the rule is and how it works. But, a unit like this with 24 wounds, you want to be able to put dangerous terrain checks on him to get some damage through. He's got a 2-up save. He's rocking around with 20 AP4 attacks. And he's not going to shoot. He'll shoot maybe once the first turn. But here's an example. If you're going to pay the points, and he's a lot, and he's 2-up save with 24 wounds. Now, I do think a good balancing part of that would be having a little bit more Deadly 3 AP2 shooting type units on some armies. But yeah, you give him for 25 points, 12 AP4, 8 AP4, 20 AP4. So I don't think they're correctly maybe valuing the volume of what 20 AP4 attacks is. This should be 3 AP4 Deadly 6. Why is the God Spear AP2 Deadly 6, but he's stomping at a higher AP, and if he just takes the axe, he's also higher AP? These APs are mixed. They're wrong. If you're going to have the slow attack, high damage weapon, that should also be the armor piercing weapon, not the 20 attacks. They shouldn't be the AP4, right? So these should probably be AP2. This should be AP4. And that would give you much more reason to actually take the God Spear, because now he's got 3 attacks at AP4, Deadly 6. He's a great monster hunter, a great big guy killer, chariots, whatever. But instead, with 20 AP4 attacks, you don't need to ever do this because he kills everything, right? AP4 kills everything. That's basically the equivalent of always rending except against regeneration. Here's another one that I think is a mistake. Terrifying. Counts as having the fear, but gets +4. Why would he get +4? Fear is a D3 to your combat resolution. Now, models with Terrifying get +4, which means if you charge this guy after he's already fought, you have to somehow get 5 to 7 wounds through to tie, or more to win combat against him. And that's assuming he didn't hit you at all with 20 AP4 attacks that you're basically getting only saving on 6s against. And he's got 20 of them, so he's probably hitting 2 or more times. So all of a sudden, let's say he kills 2 guys. Now he gets D3 +6 to his combat. This should probably be +2. I honestly think fear at a +D3 is very, very strong, especially like chariots and stuff with fear, little giants and little monsters with fear. It's really strong, and +4 makes it absurd. It's like way more than double, basically. Plus, you still get the D3, so absolutely silly. The +4 also means if you fight a unit in hand-to-hand combat and they have a standard and musician, you're double what they bring to combat right off the bat before anybody swings. And you're also swinging 20 AP4 attacks, sometimes hitting on a 2+. This guy gives himself a 2+ to hit on a roll of a 2. He only has to cast this on a 2+ because he's a wizard 2. So he's almost always 2/2. And he's got 20 AP4 attacks. I mean, what are we doing here? Kind of silly. Bring those down to AP2. Let's talk. Terrifying, bring that to 2. That would basically be Terrifying, would be the equivalent of like a big guy having a standard and musician as well. Makes a lot more sense to me. So that's it. There you have it. I think that is about all I wanted to talk about. Hopefully some people watch this and tell me what they think. I'd love to hear your house rules for Age of Fantasy. I do honestly think the game is like near perfect. It's so much fun. Quick little side note here. Once again, this goes on poison. This guy, B, gets poison for 5 points. This should be 25 points, right? Stomp gets poison. He's already got 6 AP1 attacks. You put poison on that for 5 points, which is just, you might as well just write it in the scroll here and turn that to 245 because you're always going to take it, always. There was absolutely no reason to never take it. And fly is only 10 points, which, like I said, ignores dangerous terrain, spears, phalanx, all that, all the spells that cause dangerous terrain tests, all the effects that cause dangerous terrain tests. Fly and poison are undercosted. They should be, I don't know if fly's 25, but it's definitely not 10. Poison's 25. I mean, you're bringing his terrible melee prowess up to, a decent. I don't know. Just, yeah. I think we're undercosting poison. Anyway, the game's great. Super, super duper fun. It really plays well. The alternating activations are amazing. One thing I like is the community seems, involved in making the game great. The designer or designers, I'm not sure who works on it, seem involved in improving the game. And since they're doing an update here, hopefully my video gets seen and hopefully some of these changes get considered. So I'll see you in the next one. Adios.